Well, short week, so preparation has begun. Practice today, and I thought the guys rallied pretty good. Pretty good energy this morning at practice. Recapping, a couple of thoughts after watching the video, Washington State. Yeah, I just think that, you know, the margin for error and against a really good team that's playing really well, we just had too many self-inflicted to make up a difference on that. Give you a couple examples. First long ball touchdown, we don't got a guy within 8-10 yards of him. Well, we're not playing the coverage correctly, and that's on us. First drive offensively, we go down, get a couple of good decent runs, turns into 3rd and 2. We can't execute a toss play between the quarterback and running back. 3rd and 2 turns into 4th and 8. That's self-inflicted, and that caught up to us, losing by 3, and field goal goes off the upright to go in. I mean, I said it after the game. I give those guys some credit. I thought the quarterback played really well. Receiver making multiple plays for him. I mean, there's contested plays that they made that separated the game, but we got to tighten up ours, self-inflicted wise, to give ourselves a better chance against good opponents, and we're going to have to do it because we got a good one coming in here on Friday. Got a bunch of respect for Kyle Winningham, that program, what they've established and sustained for a long time. Going to need Beaver Nation in a big way. Need a home field advantage Friday night. This place needs to be packed and rocking. Totally expect it to happen. With school starting on Wednesday, students going to need those guys in a huge way because these guys can play a brand of football that's obviously very effective, physical, and wins a lot of games. So we've got a huge challenge coming up.
Has there been any discussions about maybe bringing Aiden in for a series just as a change-up?
We're always discussing, and this is for every position of, like, you know, the rotations and how guys are developing coming along, and so we're discussing. Again, DJ's started quarterback, did some good things in the game, got us back into the game, a couple of drives. Could he play better? 100%. We need to protect him. We need to make some plays on the ball. And then, yeah, he's got a couple throws in there that he needs to make. So, yes, and DJ's starting.
What did you feel like DJ did well on Saturday?
I thought he got run plays, wear protection, understanding where he was blocked and when not. He had the huge deep ball down the middle of the field to Bolden that gave us a crease. It's tough on him to get into a rhythm the way we run the ball. You know, he's not out there throwing it every down to get into a rhythm, so I think he battled through that pretty well.
Do you think you're better at quarterback this year than you were a year ago?
Well, you know, a year ago, like after 4 games,
yeah,
I'd have to think back on it. Again, coming off, we scored 35. Feel like the talent level is solid. So yeah.
I guess, I mean, do you feel like you're making progress toward being, because that was kind of an emphasis going this year, is make that position better? We want to be better at every position. Really, it's more to the pass game. We want to continue to make strides because we felt confident in the run game. And, you know, in some ways, the pass game in the first half was not not good enough. And then in some ways, you look in the second half and what we had to do in the fourth quarter, there was some operation that was good.
How do you prepare for an uncertain quarterback situation like you're facing this week at Utah when you don't know who's going to be taking the field for them? Well,
you know, you go off of what they've done in 4 games on tape, and that guy's a good player. 13, he creates. You can see his confidence level getting more and more. He's athletic to extend the play. Obviously, Cam Rising, yeah, he's there and has a long history of being a really good player and winning games, but hadn't seen it this year on tape. So preparing for these 4 games we've seen. And then there's not going to be a huge adjustment because you look at Rising's skill set, he can create a whole lot similar to 13.
And what do you looking at Utah's defense, which is once again looks really solid? What do they consistently do that makes them so successful?
They do everything well. I mean, this guy is physical at the line of scrimmage. They play the scheme. They don't give you anything easy. They don't bust out there. They're not giving you free access throws. They challenge you. They're athletic at linebacker. They got pass rush ability. They don't have to blitz, but they're going to blitz when they want to. I mean, it's a long history, and they're playing dominant defense right now.
And finally, any significant injuries that we need to be aware of going into next week?
Nope, not significant. Definitely bumps, bruises type thing, but no one long-term came out of the game.
Coach, in terms of passing game struggles, how do you feel kind of passing game through 4 weeks here so far, 3-4 weeks? And do you anticipate using more tempo against Utah on Friday to kind of, you know, help remediate some of those struggles?
Yeah, I think, again, passing game, looking to score points, and however that's going to come, we got to be effective. Again, this will be a huge challenge against these guys. On the tempo end, you know, not going to give away game secrets here, but we're always looking at different ways to implement in a game.
Coach, looking at the past, DJ over his career has had at times really struggling with his accuracy. I was looking in 2021, he had 5 games where he threw 50% or less of his completion percentage. He's already had 2 games where he's already had kind of that struggle this season. What are you seeing in the film with him that's kind of really kind of holding him back when it comes to some of those throws that he's just missing, he's overthrowing, or the timing with the route is off? What are you seeing as a coach right now?
Well, I think on the the numbers, stats, you can spin this thing. I do think he needed to throw incomplete in those last couple of drives to stop the clock. Not there, not forcing it. We need to gain. So those numbers are going to get fluctuated there. Again, the goal is not to be 60% completion percentage. The goal is to score and then, again, complement the run game with the pass. Am I saying that we love being below or 50? No, DJ included, but he's not on his own. Schematics from the coaches in, separation, protection, all of that's combined.
There were about 5 or 6 throws last game, obviously excluding the ones where he had to throw it to stop the clock, or there was just nothing there that he just missed, or there was no one there on the route. It just dropped dead into the middle and there was no one there. Do you feel like those 5 or 6 passes that maybe could have been completed last weekend could have potentially made all the difference and potentially coming out with the win, or at least giving a shot in overtime?
I think that all the small things matter in a 3-point game. There's no question. Again, specifics, play design, we're going to throw some incompletions, but when you lose by 3, yeah, there's a bunch of plays that can make a difference.
I know that obviously Pac-12 play is here. 1 loss already in Pac-12 play. Every win matters, especially now that you guys have started this 0-1. Are you guys heading into this Friday matchup looking at this as a must-win situation, knowing that if you guys go 0-2 in Pac-12 play, that a shot for the Pac-12 championship is going to be that much harder to get to this year?
Every game we go in with the same mentality. It's must win. There's no panic here. We can prepare well. Got to play aggressive. Know these games are going to be tight, and go out and compete on Friday.
First time facing some adversity like this, and obviously this season so far. How do you feel like, your team responded to this loss, but also what have you learned about them through that adversity?
Well, again, I go back to the way we practice. I think the response has been great. These guys know how competitive, and you come up short a little bit, you got to go back to work and the process with it. I thought we responded to some adversity. It was not going our way the way it started in that game. Shoot, gets in the middle of the third quarter, we're down quite a bit. These guys responded, kept on battling, and shoot, we're kicking on side toward the end. So the response showed in Saturday and today's practice.
Couple of play calls. What was the thinking on the 4th and 5 where you went for the touchdown late in the game instead of kicking a field goal?
Yeah, that close 5-yard line, we had the conversation maybe a little bit earlier, like, hey, if we get to a point where 3 points and then try to onside, but being at the 5, you were going to have to score a touchdown at some point. That was the logic.
And then what was the thinking on the 4th and 1 call where you threw over Martinez's head?
Yeah, aggressive call, especially the field position. They were loaded in there. I do think we had Martinez in the flat. Of course, the guys up the field on DJ, we were anticipating them pinching more on a short yardage type play. Guys up on the field, we don't get it executed. I will say give the defense some credit. Didn't convert 4th down, 3 plays. Field goal came in and missed. And so back to the response, I thought that showed a little bit of this team.
A couple of things about defense. They had close to 200 yards after the catch. How much of that was them, and how much it was you guys with bad angles and not tackling well?
Combination. Going back, they had good players in space. We talked about it going in. We were going to have to tackle well, miss some tackles, and they extended plays. I think about the 3rd down and 10. They throw it like a 10-yard curl, and he takes it for 50. I mean, that was a huge play. We didn't take a great angle to get him down. We got guys chasing, but then they got bottled up together, and the guy spun out. Good play by him.
Did you feel like the defensive front played? Did they play okay, or it didn't seem like you get enough pressure on board? Yeah, okay. I think that we do. You want to make this quarterback uncomfortable. And again, I go back. You got to give these guys some credit. Quick throws some of the time. When they wanted to take the launch, protection was there. We needed to make him more comfortable. We didn't do it.
Coach, the 2 personal foul penalties, did you look at it and see were those appropriate calls in both instances?
Definitely, we looked at it. I think Tolley's was a tough call, not all the time called, but sometimes, he's just finishing a guy that he'd already knocked on the ground. Coop, that was blatantly after the whistle.
Was there any issue at all with the mesh point on handoffs from DJ at times on some of it? It looked like there were almost times it didn't quite get there.
There was a few. Back to, again, the self-inflicted. One time the ball was on the ground, and that was a mesh point that, we got to be able to execute. I will say there's some detail to what we're doing behind the line of scrimmage. You're seeing it. We got guys going back across the formation, tight end wise. We're faking around, messing with eyes back there, but then create some detail that we got to tighten up between the Q and the running back.
in terms of the running game itself and DJ's part in that, it looked like he was pretty comfortable making some decisions and running hard. A lot of yards, it looked like, for him running the football.
He did, yeah, and we had some specific called runs for him that he executed well, blocked well, and we want to continue that package because he can be a threat that way.
And the 1-2 punch, and just in terms of both Damian and Deshaun, and how hard Deshaun ran in particular, that was an impressive performance.
Yeah, and both those guys had good carries. Deshaun, a few more than he'd had previously, which is awesome to see. Again, I go back to this, they've been finishing some drives. We're going to have to do it on Friday.
Didn't want to totally pick on the defense here, but Mascarenas played pretty well, did you feel like he played pretty well?
Like
he was always tackling guys when
he's a good player, had opportunities, got some huge tackles, especially, they're running more or less wide delay screen. There's a ton of space, and Easton's there doing his job, and he's played well in 4 games.
Jake Overman put his name in the portal. This is week 4 when guys start thinking about redshirt and whatever else. Is there discussions with other guys in terms of not necessarily going in the portal, but taking a redshirt because they played their 4 games?
Have not had detailed discussions on leaving the program like Jake did, and so again, guys know the rules and how much they've played, but nothing of new news coming.
Then a few players did. Noga, did he play Saturday?
He got in toward the end, not as much because some of the sets, but yeah, he got in toward the end.
Okay. And Ryan Frankie, is he anywhere close to being able to do anything?
Not really. He hasn't been practicing much. He's still working through things.
Is he kind of maybe not going to play this year?
Potentially might not play, but he's got a ways to go.
And then Hayes suited up.
He did.
Where is he at?
Healthy, getting closer. He's still kind of on a pitch count, but he kicked it today, kind of full throttle. So he's getting closer.
4 weeks into the season, but obviously coming into this year, you guys had so many new players playing new roles. Do you feel like there's still area where you guys are still working on, getting into that starting position where you would like to be?
Yeah. And not just new players, but you're always trying to learn and improve and that type of thing. We're getting contributions from more guys because you get in week 4, bumps and bruises here, special teams play for this guy. He's gotten better, so we want to get him in the game a little bit more. So we got a lot of that going on.
We talked about, obviously, the challenge of not necessarily knowing who's going to start for Utah, but outside of the quarterback, what are some of those challenges that they pose?
Well, the run game, physicality of the O-line, schematics. Again, they're going to run the ball to set up some action pass down the field that they can make it really, really explosive. They did a good job with shift and motion pre-snap offensively, that you got to have your eyes right. It starts looking like one way, and then it turns into something completely different. We got to recognize that. That's not always easy, too, when you play at home, because counting on Research Stadium being loud, your defense got to be able to communicate within some shift and motion.
Kind of been picking on the defense a little bit more, but I think they did a really good job in the second half, really shutting down Cameron Ward and obviously that Washington State offense. What adjustments did you guys talk about in halftime that you think really had some success in limiting what Ward was able to do in the second half, especially that, I think it was that 4th and goal situation where Robinson knocked that pass and gave you guys that opportunity to get back in this?
I did think there was some response from the defense because you're right. In the first half, that was not our MO. Give them some credit, making some plays. I thought we got on our heels a little bit in the second quarter. We were able to regroup. We didn't change our plan completely. I think we did change our mentality of going back and being an attack front and a challenge mindset.
I know that Jake Overman hasn't had many opportunities this season to play on the field, but when you lose someone in that depth chart that gives you guys that flexibility if someone does get injured, especially as we continue to move on for this season, what sort of impact does losing him this season kind of have on you guys, and how do you kind of adjust, as you go into each of these games week by week?
Yeah, we've had some depth in that position group and multiple guys playing, and so, the next guy kind of up, which has taken place, and it's similar in each week. You got the risk. It's a physical game. You lose a guy or two, the next guy's got to be ready to go.
I know that you mentioned that obviously the mentality is still the same going into any game you want to win, but is there a sense that this is just a bigger game, obviously coming in 2-time Pac-12 champions and that opportunity to knock them off from their undefeated streak?
Yeah, I'm not trying to downplay like this game's not big. All these games are big. This opponent is, whatever they are in the top 10 in the country, the place we packed. Conference play means something. I just think you run some risk if your approach is dictated on who you're playing and when and where and why. Your approach week in and week out, this is a big game.